All right, welcome into Floor is Yours, an extension of Five on the Floor here on the Five Reasons Sports YouTube channel. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick and at Five Reasons Sports. Make sure, of course, to subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit like. Make sure you comment. We try to read your comments. If you provide us with a super chat donation, we will read your comment. We can absolutely guarantee that we'll get to it before the end of the show here over the next 30 minutes. We've got a bunch of sponsors on this show. Before I start to introduce them, let me introduce who's here. We got Greg Sylvander. You can follow him at Greg Sylvander. And you can follow Tony Schwartz at Tony Schwartz NBA. You can also catch his In the Lane podcast, which also appears on the Five Reasons YouTube channel. And at some point here, Alex Toledo will trudge in, and you can follow him at Tropical Blanket. Got a couple of sponsors here on the show, including a new one. This one is called Salis, S-A-L-I-S. And what this is for, you can go to the website, getsalis.com. Are you a weekend warrior? This thing is for you, okay? Because what this is a new kind of hydration supplement, all right? It's sugar-free, has no artificial colors. This stuff is actually good for you. Just use it before your toughest workouts. I specifically recommend this for distance runners, but it's not just for distance runners. It's for anybody who sweats, okay? So basically, if you want to replenish, people, you're going to use your Gatorade. You can use this, okay? Use this. They got little packets inside. You go to getsalis.com. You're going to use the code 5RSN. That's our product code. You're familiar with that one from some other products that sponsor the Five Reasons Sports Network. That's 5RSN, the number 5, and you get 10% off your order, your first order, okay? So go to getsalis.com. It helps you with dehydration, fatigue, muscle weakness, and all that stuff, and it is formulated with natural ingredients. You'll be hearing more and more about this one on upcoming shows on the Five Reasons Sports Network YouTube channel, and also, of course, on Five on the Floor. All right, here's what we're doing tonight, guys. I don't do show prep. Everybody knows that, so that's just not what I do. Thanks, Welsh. Good to see you. Don't say that I'm late. No, I knew that was coming. That comment always comes in from him that I'm late. You will see somebody else coming here later than me, okay? So there you go. Is that going to help Royal with dehydration? I don't know that anything can help Royal, by the way. If you saw the middle finger salute that was given between Jimmy Butler and Max Strus, I hope that you thought of Royal and I. Of course, I'm Jimmy and he's Max. But I just wanted to be clear here that that's our relationship. So, Royal, you can join here anytime. What we're going to do tonight, we're going to play Rotation Survivor Island, okay? We were doing this a little bit on our internal Heat string, which we have all these DM strings on Twitter between all of our contributors. And we were kind of saying, okay, who's in, who's out when everybody is healthy? And you have to assume health for this, okay? We know that in a COVID season, with all the injuries and everything else that's going on here, that you may not get everybody healthy at one time. We certainly haven't seen it. In fact, I tweeted today, the Heat have played 39 games, right? You know how many games that Jimmy, Lowry, and Bam have played together? 14. They're 9-5 in those games. So 25 out of the 39 games, they haven't had at least one of their projected big three. And so, again, to assume full health for any team, including a team that had a guy like Oladipo who's been rehabbing, is difficult. But I'm going to throw some different combinations at these guys and kind of let them weigh in on it here a little bit. Who would be in and who would be out in this scenario? Okay, and that is a good question. We're going to help Morris get back before 2020. You know what? I should send Markieff Morris, since he's a big fan of mine now. He's not, but I should send him some of these to see if this helps with his endurance and can help him get back on the court. All right, so here's what we're going to do, okay? Let's assume you're playing in the first round, and as Alex joins us, you can follow him at Tropical Blanket. Let's assume that you're playing in the first round against the Philadelphia 76ers. Alex and Greg's favorite team, okay? You're playing against the Sixers. The Sixers are healthy. They haven't made a move with Ben Simmons, all right? So the team that is on the court right now is the team that you're going to see. So it's Embiid, it's Maxey, it's Tobias Harris, who's getting booed now. It's the group that we've seen Philadelphia put out there this season, right? You're going against them. Your starters for the series are Jimmy, Bam, Tucker, Lowry. Who is your fifth starter in that series? Greg Sylvander.
Who do I want it to be, or who do I think it will be?
Who would it be for you?
For me, oh wow. I'm actually gonna go non-controversial here and say Duncan Robinson should be the starter.
Okay, Tony.
I think this would be the case for most of these. Victor Oladipo.
Off the board.
Could you give an explanation for that? Why is there something about Philadelphia in particular?
No, I just want the lineup that's going to most consistently give us the best versatility defensively in the playoffs. Consistently, I want to be able to show teams several different looks without having to sub guys in and off the floor. So I think Victor Oladipo allows us to play switch with Lowry. It allows us to do some different things in a zone. I really want that guy to take that spot.
Okay. By the way, that is Tyler Hero speaking, not Tony Schwartz. So the fact that Tyler wants to come off the bench in that series behind Oladipo, we may have some news. Anyway, since that came in, let's go to Alex on this. Who would be the fifth starter against Philly?
Against Philly, it's Duncan, man. Like, I just think you get Embiid in the drop, and that's where Duncan gets comfy, man, because they're gonna drop every single time. I think that's one of those matchups. Hey, man, I can't get hassled while I'm doing the show. It's gonna throw me off. But
he's just holding you accountable for the Facebook. That's all.
Hey, look, it's gotten mixed results as far as feedback goes. But really, I think Embiid, like, the Sixers are constantly in the drop, whether it's him or Drummond. And look, if Duncan Robinson is in a game in the playoffs versus Andre Drummond, give him the ball every time, because he's gonna get open off a screen every single time. It's just like, it's one of those matchup things where I can consider, maybe taking him off the bench for somebody else. But I think that one right there is a good one for Duncan, actually. And I'm still not there as to benching him, even though I'm really, like, it's starting to get pushed more and more gradually as Strus keeps doing what he's doing, as other guys keep continuing to play at really high levels, like Caleb. Obviously, I still think, I'm still expecting a lot from Gabe whenever he does return to kind of go back to the level that he was playing at before. I kind of just think of all these guys as these guys that they've shown to be. I kind of just trust that that's who they are at this point, because they've earned it. So I think a lot of them have basketball cases, and including Oladipo. If he comes back and he's really just a good catch and shoot, the 3-point shooter, it takes away some of those concerns that you might have with, like, benching a great 3-point shooter for Oladipo. But really, they have a lot of options. Like, you could go all defense with Caleb. You don't even need to worry about Victor, because you already know Caleb is kind of like that. He's the established one right now as far as that kind of build. Like, they have a lot of ways they can go about it, and it ends up being a matchup thing in the playoffs.
All right, so let's make it a matchup thing here. Let me ask this question to Greg, because let's say I'm going to give you a series of other first round opponents. You tell me if any of them would change your mind.
No, they won't.
As far as Duncan being a starter, it would not.
No. I'm trying to approach this the way Eric Spoelstra would, and he's just not going to budge on this. Duncan's going to start.
I don't agree with you about that, but we're going to talk about that some more. Tony, you said Depot in is there any potential first round matchup? First round matchup, okay? Which means we're not expecting the Heat to slip below 5, right? Like, that, we say that's probably worst case scenario. So you're talking that you're going to be, likely that the best team that you might see in there might be, I don't know, Chicago, but probably not, right, in the first round. So you're probably looking at a Philly, in Atlanta, a Cleveland, potentially, I guess, if they got their act together, New York, although I don't expect it. Toronto is starting to play the way I thought they would play. And they're back to 500. Maybe Boston. Is there any of them that would change your mind on this?
If the Hornets make a move at deadline and they can solidify their defense and get in there, maybe Charlotte, you have to space them. You have to go a little smaller because they're going to be running. But no, man. And listen, somebody said that shooting is overrated. I don't think that that's necessarily true. It's not that shooting's overrated. It's that consistently, since the beginning of the year, I've said that this team wants to execute winning basketball by getting into you, playing hard-nosed defense, getting you to the bonus first, and winning on the margins. And the best lineup to do that has Victor Oladipo and Kyle Lowry at the front court, Bam and PJ in your back end, and Jimmy as a wing. Like, you can just execute that style of screw you, punch you in the face all the time with those 5. So I like that. If it doesn't happen, you're going to hate me for this. Gabe's my next best choice. I would start Gabe.
That's interesting because I polled this today, just again for some context before I go back to Greg. I polled this today, who would be your starting two guard right now? And I was stunned by the result because Tyler was a distant third. Like, for all the talk, this may be a little recency bias because Tyler has struggled of late and has been better coming off the bench. But I was stunned that it was really almost a dead heat between Robinson and Strus, although
yeah.
after last night, not unexpected, Strus won the poll. But then it was Tyler was way back, and then I made the fourth option, either Martin or Vincent, and between them, they only got about 3%. But I did put them on the poll. I did not put Vic on the poll because he's not there. But, okay, I'm going to pivot off something that Tony's talking about now, okay? Let's say that Victor Oladipo is a starter in the playoffs, which I don't anticipate necessarily, okay? I think that's a much later in the postseason move. It might be a card that he plays. If Victor Oladipo is a
That's
starter
basically
in the
if everything
playoffs,
goes right.
with that group, Greg, what would be your bench in a postseason series? And for this one, we're going to make it non-matchup dependent. Okay, we're going to just say.
So
I'm curious where you go with this. Vic is
Yeah.
the starter with Tucker and Lowry, Jimmy, and Bam.
Okay, so now Duncan won't even play at all in my rotation. If you're saying that this is how it's going to go and Victor Oladipo is going to be that good that he's going to be inserted into the starting lineup, my bench is Hero. It is Max Strus. It's Deadman. And I guess you sprinkle in a little bit of Caleb and Gabe, depending on the matchup. I just went back and looked while we were talking at the NBA Finals box scores and the NBA Eastern Conference Finals box scores. Spo ain't playing more than 8 guys. And in the last game against LA, he only played 7 guys. So literally, it's going to get down to I don't know how he's going to get cutthroat with it, but they're not playing more than 8.
All right, so you're going. I'm going to pitch it to Alex now. We're just going to stay very detailed to this particular topic because I want to pivot off one and then to the next.
Yep.
If Oladipo is a starter with the Heat's big 3, veteran big 3, and Tucker, okay, give me your bench, Alex, for a playoff series. Keep the opponent neutral.
Deadman for sure. Obviously, Tyler. I'm keeping Duncan in because I'm not taking Duncan from being the starter for 2 seasons to being off the rotation after being one of the best shooters in the league. We're going overboard. I'm just saying that right now. The Oladipo thing is not going to happen. If it does happen, that's awesome because that means things went absolutely terrific with Oladipo. That's how much I don't think it's going to happen because it would have to be just beyond everybody's expectations, I think, with for him to start in the playoffs for Spo when all these guys have come out and shown that they deserve a spot there. But that being said, it's Tyler, Duncan, Deadman. From there, I'm probably going to put you got to put defense. I'm going Caleb.
I think Alex just froze.
Tough.
On Caleb.
It's really tough.
So it's
Did you guys
Caleb
lose
at
me?
9, okay?
No, we got you, Caleb.
So
Okay.
here's who's not playing in Alex's rotation. Just again to be clear, in that case, you're not playing Morris, you're not playing Vincent, right? You're not playing Yurt,
I said Gabe. I said Gabe too.
and you're not playing Strus, right?
Okay, I think I'm lagging or something
You're
because
not
Right.
playing Strus.
I said Gabe too.
Well, now we're getting to 10. Okay, so you think, but now you're not playing Strus. Okay, so let me pivot back. I'll go back to you, Tony. All right. Let's say that Max Strus becomes a starter for this team. That what happened last night and what seems to be happening lately, which is that with circumstances, it seemed to be equal between Duncan and Strus last night. They were both coming back from COVID situations. And in fact, Strus had been out longer. Okay, both coming back. Max played 31 minutes. Duncan played 17 minutes in a game that he was 4 for 6. So shooting was not the problem last night. I understand our guy Sean has talked about wanting a little bit more ball handling later in the game. But there is a trend that Greg and I have talked about a lot, which is that Eric is starting to go to Strus in fourth quarters consistently, whereas he won't go to Duncan and has not gone to Duncan in fourth quarters this season. Even when he hasn't had other bodies available, he hasn't gone to Duncan. So let's say this. Let's say that Strus is a starter for this team in the postseason. Then what does your bench look like? Are you assuming Depot is, again, health, is getting minutes, and then who's out? Depot's playing with Hero and no Duncan?
Yeah, Gabe gets dropped at that point.
Okay.
And so you're looking at Tyler, Deadman, Caleb or Morris, whoever's playing hotter. as probably your 8.
Okay.
Maybe both of those guys.
Okay.
And then Duncan's out. But here's the thing, though, and I know we're trying to pivot, and we will. We're talking about volume shooters here, and volume shooters are going to ebb and flow. Okay, when Duncan was on that 8-game streak, all the analytics were favoring him for playing always because he's longer than Strus and he can impact the game as a passer. Right now, he's got that one dribble kind of move, and he can get dump off passes. He can do all kinds of stuff that he couldn't do earlier.
Mm-hmm.
If Max starts regressing back to the mean, it's going to look really bad because he's not as good defensively as Duncan is. So this becomes not a stupid topic, but this becomes a dumb topic for us to put our feet into. They should play whoever's hotter. All right. There's 2 guys. They should play whoever's hotter. Morris and Caleb, Duncan and Max. Whoever's hotter gets the minutes for me.
Okay.
I mean, I'm in with my burner there.
That's fair. Okay. What does, I'll ask you this then, Greg. What does regression to the mean look like for Max Strus? Because I don't know that we've seen him have a couple of defense is another story, okay? But offensively, he hasn't had a bad game as a starter yet, right? I mean, this doesn't seem like a Linsanity situation. Like, I mean, he's in the same way that Caleb has not. Has Caleb had a bad game in the last 7 or 8 games that he's played?
You always remember something about what Caleb does. He's got that kind of just he finds ways to make plays. But I'll tell you, Max Strus's regression to the mean is probably what he averaged in November. I'm looking at it now. 23 minutes, 9 points, 43% from the field, 38.6% from 3 on 5.5 attempts. So just to give you a comparison for how he performed in the 13 games in December in 25 minutes, 14 points, 49%, 42% on 7 attempts from 3. And then obviously, the rebounds are essentially consistent. Like, I think that the regression is more like the 43-38 kind of situation versus, being a 50% field goal shooter from 2 and 42 from 3. Like, I don't know that that's sustainable.
All right, we're going to stay in the backcourt and the wings, and I'm going to go to Alex now, and then we're going to start to talk some front court stuff because everybody's putting Dedmon in their rotation for the postseason. I think this is a conversation that we should have because I'm not necessarily sold that that's going to end up being the case. Okay, let's go to Alex on something else. All right, we have seen that Martin and Vincent are particularly dynamic together. Okay, like defensively, the numbers are off the charts for the 2 of them. In what scenarios do you see that they can squeeze both of them into a rotation that also includes Victor Oladipo? Is this even possible?
Yeah, I don't think that's possible. I mean, look, if it's possible, it's because Duncan has played himself so poorly off that it's like completely undeniable. It's like, oh, Duncan has shot 30% from 3 for the past 3 months, and it's continued into the playoffs bad. Or you know what I'm saying? Like, it has to be that obvious because otherwise there's just no space. If Victor Oladipo stands out and Spo decides that he wants to make space for him in his, as we know, shortened playoff rotation, like, that's a big deal. And you got to move other guys out of the way. And it's just tough because it's going to be one of Gabe or Caleb because I just don't think Duncan plays like that poorly. Like, I just don't see the scenario happening, and it's tough to kind of talk about this a little bit, I feel. But I just think Duncan, we haven't seen him in the role that he was signed to $90 million for. And how, like, what was the last time we saw this team help? And I know that's happening with everybody, but it just really, like, it's getting in the way of how we're supposed to evaluate Duncan. These other guys have other things that they can go to step up when guys are out. Duncan doesn't, and it becomes obvious for when you're seeing like the 17 different versions of the team over and over again, constantly missing several different guys. Duncan, I think when the team is back to being healthy, whenever that happens, and if we're talking about the playoffs, the team is healthy, let's say Duncan is not there for whatever reason, he's on the bench. They're going to miss that gravity that he provides for that specific starting lineup. I just think we're forgetting how it looked a little bit. And even though they were good on offense, I think part of that, the reason that they were top 10 in offensive rating is because Duncan was helping get these guys good looks just from, the stuff that he does, even if the threes weren't always falling. So I don't think there's a situation, just, long-winded to say that Gabe, Caleb, and Vic all get in there. I'm willing to say right now, I think it's gonna be Gabe and Caleb staying, and I think like Vic has a long way to go. And it's just kind of where we are right now. Like these guys have been producing.
Rich people problems, right?
Yeah, I think it is.
Mm-mm.
Before we get to the front court here, I want to mention first one of our sponsors, Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com, use the code 5. Whatever your initial deposit is, this is our daily fantasy partner, our official daily fantasy partner. Go to prizepicks.com. They will match your initial deposit completely. So $100, they will give you $100 to play with. You don't have to play $100 up front. You can play $20. You can play power play, flex play. And of course, you can also play NFL, NHL, and everything else in addition to the NBA. You can pair Sasha Barkov or Jonathan Huberdeau with Jimmy Butler when he's back if you want to. You can do all of that at prizepicks.com. Use the code 5. All right. I got another question for you, and I will ask Mr. Hero here, Mr. Schwartz, this particular question related to the other Mr. Hero. If Tyler Hero is coming off the bench, and I think we all are sort of in agreement that his best role is not as a starter. If you plug Hero into the starting lineup, it's a small sample size, obviously, this season. Instead of Duncan Robinson, the numbers plummet. Okay, so that kind of speaks to Alex's point about what Duncan does provide, even if it's not seen. But let's talk about the best possible backcourt partner to come off the bench with Tyler Hero, assuming that it's not just going to be staggering, that, you know, they're going to get, as we talked about before the year, when we didn't think they had enough guards, right? And we were saying, okay, Tyler's going to come off and play a ton with Kyle, which has obviously happened. But now it's like you don't have to necessarily stagger because you have Strus, you have Vincent, you have Martin, you may have Oladipo.
But they do more of that in the playoffs.
Well, of those 4 guys, who is the best, Tony, who is the best possible backcourt partner for Tyler Hero?
Gabe or Depot.
Okay.
I just like Tyler in roles where his primary focus is filling up the score sheet. That's it. When he can do that and he has the space to effectively operate and use his dribble to penetrate and get to the mid-range shot that he likes. Mm-hmm. He's really freaking good. And this team has to score points somehow. So if there's another ball handler on the floor with him, and I think Gabe is an excellent, his playmaking is really taking a step. But to me, Depot is literally the meme with the upgrade button for Gabe. It's the blue upgrade button. Press it. That's the best version of Victor Oladipo. So it's one of them. Let them be playmakers. They can get downhill a little bit. And Tyler's only job is to score the ball and be hot. You know, get hot, score the ball for us. I like him minimize rather than maximize right now as a player.
Which one for you, Greg?
I mean, like, if we're talking about the playoffs, there's only 8 guys that are playing. If we're really going to drill down to this, so there is no backcourt partner for Tyler off the bench. None of those assholes are playing. It's going to be Kyle Lowry and whatever other guard that you're starting like that. They're going to just rotate those 3 guys. But I'll say this, and I'm skipping ahead a little bit. There's going to be certain series where I could see Caleb and Gabe getting trickled in with minutes, and then Dedmon, you don't even see his ass. Like, that is totally possible depending on matchups.
All right. I think Alex agrees on that. So I'm going to go to the bigs here. Now, I want to talk about this. There is an assumption, I think, that a couple of you have made that Dedmon, whose side got is Alex Toledo?
That's a real person.
That's Alec.
That's Alec Toledo.
Oh, that's I always screw that up though. That's the Alec on Twitter. I always mess it. Sometimes I think that's you actually. That's
yeah, no, I'm
don't
typing,
pay him instead.
You can't see it. I'm really typing.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell is he doing? All right, bigs. Okay. Do we see any? Assuming again, Tucker next to Bam. Omer's not going to start next to Bam in the postseason.
No, I mean we might as well go into that scenario since we did the Depot one.
Tucker's the perfect player next to Bam. Don't mess.
Do we see any scenario that a big other than Dedmon gets more minutes in a playoff series? I'll let any of you jump in. Yes,
if everybody's healthy, no, it's not happening. Omer is all the playoff bigs that he could match up against are just 3-4 factors stronger than him. He would get bodied into the first row most of a series. So, and that's not his fault. He needs time. He's not ready for this moment. Great for the regular season, rebounding monster, but no.
Could not agree more. Omer is not he's not gonna sniff the playoff rotation. I'm sorry. Like I love what I'm seeing from him. Like I'm not trying to trash on him at all. It's just they already have so many players, and Dedmon is like if Omer was polished, right? Like maybe not in the same. They're not the same player, but it's almost like you're gonna take the polished guy who is also a part of like all their best lineups. Just when you look at the lineup data and who has been producing for them since last year. So it's just good to see Omer doing his thing. It's I would be absolutely floored if he was in the playoff rotation over Dedmon.
Okay, but there's another suggestion here, provided he's alive. Do you see any scenario, Greg, that Markieff Morris becomes the primary big off the bench in a playoff series?
Yeah, that could happen, depending on if they need certain scoring and if he were to. I mean, I think that they'd try it like that. That would be an alternate. They're not going to play Dedmon and Morris in the same series, I don't think. I think that they'll cut the rotation down. And if they're like, let's say they play Golden State, there may not be room for Dedmon to even get any minutes. So then like your biggest big could be a Morris sighting for, 11 minutes to end quarters or something. I don't know how it would break out, but like, even then I actually think there's more matchups than not where they could completely put all the bigs on the shelf and play with all of the smaller guys and play like really unconventional. I think that's the final trick up the sleeve of Erik Spoelstra.
Okay, Alex, that was going to be my next question. So let me go to you on this. Give me an opponent in which essentially the only bigs that are played are Bam and PJ Tucker. Is there an opponent out there that's the case?
Easy, Brooklyn. That's the easy one. And I was going to mention this earlier when we were talking about backcourt and is because you asked a question and ended up not going to me, but it's the same. It goes into the same thing because if you end up trying to play smaller and let's say you go Markieff, like Keith comes back whenever he does come back and he's just back to playing the way he was. And if they run those lineups in regular season, they look good. I would not be surprised if Spo threw that out there against the Nets if they got him in a series. Like I just think that team is going to be one where like those old bigs are not going to be playing in the playoffs. And so you're not going to, I mean, look, if they're running out lineups and Dedmon is getting cooked by Kyrie or Harden, which we haven't seen it yet. So that's why I'm not really like trying to account for him as getting played off the court. But at the same time, you don't want him on the floor versus like 2 or 3 of those guys. Like it's just too much pressure for Dedmon. So I could definitely see it versus the Nets. And that's also to say that that's the one team I will consider benching Duncan for. That's the one team because they don't have a drop big there. And it's not just about that, but it's also like they switch so much. Duncan struggles versus switches. The Nets also play smaller. I feel like if like, let's say Strus continues this and he's shown that he can start, he can kind of, use some of that strength versus some of those smaller guys that they put in there in the rotation there. Just to say that the Nets provide like a completely different matchup, I think, than some of these other teams. You know what I'm saying? I think that's the one team they can go small against.
All right. I got one more sponsor to introduce, and then we're going to close this. I've got another question for you guys because I want to ask again about specific teams. I'm glad that Alex pivoted to Brooklyn because I want to talk about Milwaukee and a couple of others here before we close. Before we do, one more sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network, our friends over at Everything Trade Shows. Go to everythingtradeshows.com. Your company going back to trade shows even during this COVID season. They're still doing it here at the convention centers in Broward and in Miami. And look, they service the entire country. So go to everythingtradeshows.com. Mention 5 Reasons. They will show you exactly how the booth is going to look. They'll render it for you for free. And you can make a decision then what you want to do with it. They'll do it again for you. They do a great job. Okay, they're based right here in Los Olos. They service all 50 states. Go to everythingtradeshows.com. All right, let's go to this. Milwaukee. We have talked. We did a podcast the other day about contenders and the assumption that Brook Lopez is going to be back. I thought that the release of DeMarcus Cousins maybe indicated that to some degree that maybe Brook is on his way back. I was following some of the stuff up in Milwaukee. Let's look at a Milwaukee situation, Tony. Let's assume Brook is back, okay? And what they have. They don't have PJ Tucker anymore. I've assumed, Bobby Portis would go with Brook back, maybe go back a little bit more to the role that he had before. They've got some more vets off the bench now. They brought Hill back. They brought Wesley Matthews back, right? So there's a little bit of depth, but some age there. Rotation-wise against Milwaukee, that's more conventional, right, than Brooklyn?
It's more conventional, but I don't know how much Dedmon I want to see. I just like length switchability against Milwaukee. We're going to be running. If we're going to do the wall, we have to be ready for him to be an improved passer. This is how he got to the finals, and this is how he won an MVP. He's an improved passer now, so we got to be ready to run rotation. We just have to be ready to throw multiple bodies at him. And I like the length, the size, strength, speed. It's got to be balanced. It's got to be versatile. Milwaukee's a tough matchup. I know they're not as skilled as Brooklyn, but I still think that's the team we're probably going through in the East. I just see ways to beat Brooklyn's defense, and Milwaukee's still like the toughest front for us.
So what would
All
your
right,
front court rotation be
You
then?
guys weigh in because I want to go to Golden State and Phoenix with the other one. Okay,
Yeah.
So you guys choose. Who wants to handle Milwaukee here?
All right, so just kind of to go back and forth here with Tony, like what would the rotation then in the front court be with Milwaukee? Then I'm kind of interested in that.
I think I still probably, it's going to always be Depot. Say it one more time.
Do you stagger Bam and PJ as the fives?
I think I'm PJ and Morris are like right there with each other. When one comes off, the other comes on. Like that's kind of how I see
I would
that.
like both of
Bam
them on together.
But sure, why not? Like that's the thing is like Milwaukee is a team that is just so big and so the Portis, Brook, Giannis. There's so many guys that can really get into you on the offensive side and the defensive side. Having multiple bodies that can switch on them and be long and fill up space is going to be important because you're not going to stop Giannis from scoring. You're not going to really stop Middleton from getting to his shot every now and again. So you just have to get hands and faces and bodies on bodies. So
also is Lopez to kind of agree with what you're saying here is if he's not really back, then it's all the more reason to kind of look. I'm not in a hurry to take Dedmon out of the rotation. Like I said, as of right now, I still have him there. He's been so good for them, but I hadn't even really thought about this because I had thought about it like, yeah, you want Dedmon in there for the size when Bam's off the floor. I kind of get the case though, because they have the size in other places. Maybe you want to stay a little bit more mobile. And if like, let's say they're starting Giannis at the 5, right? In the playoffs, if Lopez is not back and Portis is there, for those minutes those rare minutes Giannis is not on the floor, I'm not worried about Bobby Portis. I don't think.
Well, you put Bam on Portis,
there,
right? I mean, you put Bam on Portis and you play PJ on Giannis, right? Isn't that the direction that you would go?
Yes, I want Bam as a help defender all the time to come and attack Giannis. Like that's what I want.
Yeah, man, I'm all the way with you there.
That's
kind of the role I had Dedmon in off the bench, but that I don't know who would be guarding one like Giannis off the bench in that role.
But you know who I think replaces Dedmon in that playoff series? Caleb.
I don't know about that. I mean, like, Caleb might be in the rotation. I just think
he can't be put on Giannis.
No, you're not putting him on Giannis, but you're using Caleb on Middleton and or Drew
for someone else to size up. Yeah.
Okay, right.
Absolutely.
So
and take that pressure off your stars to do that.
Right, but I think for the switchability though, I mean, he provides something. All right, I'll go to Greg on this one. Let's say best case scenario, you get out of the East. Okay, we were supposed to do this the other night, but we didn't. Let's say best case scenario, you get out of the East. You're seeing Golden State. Wiseman's back, but he's not a key part of it. Draymond is still doing what he's doing, and Clay is back. Somehow he's fourth in the West in All-Star voting. How does the rotation? I mean, Dedmon's not playing in that series, right? No.
Hell no. They're only so if they get to the finals. One, I don't care what the hell happens. I'm gonna have a lot of fun in that series if it's against Golden State. Two, I think they would only play 7, 8 at the most, and that would be the series where the biggest player that would ever touch the floor is Bam Adebayo. PJ Tucker would end up playing 40 minutes a night because any moment that Bam was not on the floor, they would shift PJ to the 5, and that's the only 2 front court guys I would see playing. I could see lineups where Caleb and Max Strus are out there as the forwards. I just think they'd have to get really creative to keep up with Golden State. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they would try to grind that series to a halt and do a LeBron. Jimmy kind of has a little bit of that in him to kind of take over a series and pace it down. So then maybe I'm totally wrong. But to me, that's the one series where Bam and PJ are the only bigs that come out onto the court.
And Tony, if you take a look at the backcourt and what you deal with Curry, I mean, you have Oladipo potentially at your disposal. You have Vincent, you have Caleb, right?
Kyle
I mean, you
Lowry.
can take the burden off of Kyle. See, that's
Kyle.
why I don't think he would get down to 7 or 8 in the rotation. I actually think he would use his depth in a series like that because I think Kerr's going to use his depth.
Maybe you're
right?
right.
I mean, we've seen that. I mean, the Warriors are about to get deeper with Clay coming back, and they've already pretty much proven to be the deepest team in the league, right?
I know the answer. The answer is to start Lowry, Beal, Jimmy, Bam, and PJ. That's the lineup that will match up with Golden State best.
Wow. So you're trading Tyler and whoever else, huh?
All of them gone.
Wow.
Wow. All right. Let's. I got one final thing, and we're gonna go. Thanks to our sponsors, GetSalise.com for your endurance running, PrizePicks.com. Use code 5 and EverythingTradeShows.com. All right. Be quick on this one, but I just want to ask this: is there any series that we see that Tyler Hero sees a significant reduction in minutes and usage from where he's been this year? Is there any? Do we see that in the postseason, and is there any matchup in which that sticks out?
For me, this is a quick no. Tyler's improved ball handling means that I want him on the floor in the fourth quarter. I just trust him to make the right play now. And I think he's our most clutch shooter. I don't want to see any more Jimmy one-legged step back fadeaway threes at the end of games. Give it to Tyler. Let him take the shot. He makes hard shots. That's our guy. He's our closer. So I don't think there's any chance that he's off the floor for any of this. I did want to say something earlier, though. If Depot's back, I think he's guarding Wiggins. Just so, because that dude's length gave us hell the other night. But no.
Okay. Greg?
What was the question?
Tyler Hero, do you see any scenario?
No, because listen, we have to look at this. And sorry, I knew that was the minute you said his name, I knew where we were going here. No, because you have to think about this bigger picture, and you got to find out what the hell you have in Tyler Hero. So he has to play, because then this summer you need to make decisions, if you don't make them sooner, about if you need to consolidate for the right player to put around Jimmy and Kyle in their latter years.
All right, I'm Alex. I'm gonna make you choose one guy. Just give me a name, okay? Who's gonna play the most fourth quarter minutes in the postseason for Eric Spoelstra? Here are your choices, okay? Because all of these guys have played roles in the fourth quarter so far, in some capacity. Max Strus, Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent. Which of those three guys works their way into some occasional closing lineups?
So that means Tyler's not there.
No, he's saying like just which one of those guys would pop.
One of those guys
rotation.
works their way in. I think they're all going to play more than Duncan down the stretch, honestly. Okay, but go. I'm just telling. This is Spoelstra trend. He doesn't play Duncan in the fourth. Go ahead.
I'm a little bit confused by the question, because in that scenario, it's still PJ with the big three out there, and so that means one of those guys would be playing over Tyler. I just don't see it happening. Like, I think Tyler, another guy, would have to just play terrible for Spo to not trust him in the playoffs.
No, but we've seen that Spo will go offense defense though, Alex. He will do that. He did it last year with Iguodala and Duncan for one.
Okay. I got what you're saying. I thought you were saying like to finish as a closer over Tyler.
Okay.
But I get what you're saying.
It's not necessarily over Tyler. Some games Tyler might not have it going. There, I can see some games where he plays Max over Tyler, because although I'm with Tony to a certain degree that Tyler is their closer, so to speak, in a lot of ways, Max has made as many big shots as Tyler has this year down the stretch of games. But I mean, let's just look at Max, Caleb, and Gabe. Any of those three guys, could you see them squeezing into closing minutes? Who has the chance? Who has the best chance of the three?
For an offense-defense sub, it's Caleb, because I think he can guard 1 through 3. Even though Gabe is a great defender, you just want the size and length and Caleb's active hands. And then if it's because Tyler, Duncan, like you don't have shooting, it's obviously going to be whoever has it that night. But I think Strus, like, let's say Tyler and Duncan are just complete way off their game, and you need shooting, you need another, a microwave guy. This is where it comes in. By the way, this is a good way to kind of round it all off. They have a whole lot of counters. Leif mentioned it before with the Bucks, where it's like maybe you don't play him a lot. Dedmon, you don't play him a lot, but you can kind of use him as a counter if things are going bad on the boards. You know what I'm saying? Just in a lot of different situations, they have a lot of things they can go to. I know Spo knows that. I know Spo is going to really enjoy that. And there's going to be times here and there, like guys come in that we don't expect in different times in the playoffs. it's a luxury. It really is, because we don't know anything about what Victor Oladipo is going to look like. We don't know anything about Markieff Morris and when he's coming back and how he's going to be. And still, the team is deep as hell and still has a lot of options. So imagine when the team is, if and when the team is fully healthy. So
all right, thanks.
I'll be
Alex.
quick. Maximum Strus. He will be in the rotation no matter what. So that's automatically who I'm choosing.
I agree with that one. I'm with Greg on that one. I'm not quite with Greg's agenda on the other thing yet, but I'm getting a little bit closer to it. Thanks to Alex. Thanks to Greg. Thanks to Tony for joining us. Follow me, Tony Schwartz, NBA. We're back here usually on Thursdays when the Heat don't have a game. UD's always in the rotation. He's in the rotation of our hearts. Thanks to our sponsors, PrizePicks.
I'll put UD in the playoff rotation before Omer.
Everything Trade Shows.
I would too.
Get out of here.